Excellent. Welcome, everybody, to this session of the Language Summit. We are so incredibly honored and grateful to hear from Mariana Makoon-Singh, who is an English linguist, PhD candidate in applied sociolinguistics. She's prepared an excellent presentation for us, and we're so grateful to hear from her. So we are going to kick things off and start hearing from her. If there are any questions in the chat, please, we love to hear them. And we are so excited to get started. Thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So, hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana Makoon-Singh. And let's get started. I will start sharing my screen with you all to show you the presentation that I have prepared. So, let's see. Apologies for seeing the slides on the side. And anyway, let's get started. So what I'm talking about is English immersion online crowd learning. So how do you do it and be a teacher on Hallo? I actually started with Hallo just last November, and I have other online web platforms, but never in a live streaming capacity. And it's been an experience. It's been a learning experience. So firstly, hey Vidya, hey everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Hallo and for making this event happen, to Ashley Whitesides for inviting me to speak at this breakout session, to June Bae, CEO and Den, COO and co-founder of Hallo and the Language Summit, and all the development team at Hallo for creating such a great interactive and innovative social learning platform. Our teaching team believes that in collaboration, in order to achieve the highest results for our students, acquisition of English. And I'm really, really, really excited to be part of it. So let's go to the next one. So today in my little breakout session, what we're looking at is what you saw in my, if you read it, about what I was going to present on. We'll be looking at a number of different online activities that encourage the production of spoken language. We also will demonstrate, bring together a class of 50 or more students from around the world. This has really two parts: to highlight the benefits of live instruction that engages students, and to empower students by giving them the tools to use their English beyond the classroom and become part of a global community. Right. Well, firstly, I would like to just sort of introduce myself a little bit. Oh, hey, Nathan. You don't see the presentation? I don't know. It's on the screen right above me. Perhaps Teacher Devin could help you. Don't know. So just a little bit about me. That's right, maybe refreshing the page. My name is Mariana Makoon-Singh, and I am a native bilingual English and Spanish teacher. I'm in applied sociolinguistics at the University of Cadiz. I've worked for many years as a teacher of both languages, and I've had in-person as well as online class experience, as I had said before. I do believe in the immersive experience in class, where the target language is the means by which all activities are carried out. How do you do that, really, though? I mean, because it could be a little bit maybe daunting to some teachers. How do you keep it all in the target language? The easiest way I find to be able to do it is just to break things down into its most simplest form of explaining. Usually somebody in the class always kind of can catch on with what you're doing and become a model for the other students. I've seen that in live classes, I've seen that in online classes, and the teacher usually does learn as much from the students as I suppose the students do from the teacher. So For my presentation, I'm really specifically speaking about teaching on Hallo. Okay, and on Hallo, we have to do a couple of different things. We have to get a thumbnail ready, and it is important to have a nice, clean thumbnail that explains what you're going to be looking at in class. It should be attractive. It should be clean. It should have some sort of branding. It should be within the proper dimensions, because if you do, I've had occasions where I didn't know what the proper dimensions were, and then it came out maybe cutting off the words at the top or whatnot. So that's important to know, and to be visually captivating. One of the places that this is what I understand about this conference is it's a way for all of us teachers to explain the tools that we use online for internet online teaching, excuse me. And one of the tools that I use to make my thumbnails is Adobe Spark. Now it's completely free. I learned about it. I learned about it actually maybe last year during COVID. And it's wonderful that you can choose the dimensions, you can choose a picture, you can upload pictures, you can make a brand and then put it in there. And I'm going to show you some examples of that right now. Okay, so here we go. Here are some examples, are included on the right. These thumbnails, I always have to do this. Ever since I was in second grade, I don't know why, I remember this. My teacher in class would say to us all, "What is right, what is left?" And she put her hand on the board, L-E-F-T, and forever now I understand that this is left. These little things that we remember from our childhood, huh? Anyway, so some of these examples that of clean thumbnails that I've done for my classes are here on the right. So these thumbnails were created based on the lesson that was going to be executed in class. Some of them were grammar-based, others were published samples, others were interactive quizzes and games. And we'll look at all those different activities in the following slides. Like, for example, this one up here, The Origins of English, that was actually a TED Talk. That I think I found in a TED Talk lesson, and then I just added a bit more around it. Another article, some questions, some reading comprehension questions, additionally to the TED Talk lesson itself.
Hey, Mariana, you're doing fantastic. I am so sorry. I neglected to mention that there is a start streaming button that you need to click. And I believe that that will fix a lot of the people in the chat's issues with not being able to see the presentation.
Oh my goodness, I did not press that button. Oh,
no, you are totally okay. I think everything should be okay for everybody now. It's been going fantastic and it's been recording, so everybody will be able to see it. But that's totally my bad for neglecting to notice that. But everybody should be able to see it now. Please continue with the presentation. It's going fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh gosh. Well, that's what you get for being one of the first people presenting, huh? Anyway, rolling with the punches, right? Okay. Let's see, how am I doing on time? How can I explain this? Yay! I'm so glad you can see me now. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that, guys. Okay, yeah, good. So we're doing okay on time. Yeah, so another one of some of these other ones, like the grammar and games, that was just something that you go online and you look up any type of grammar point that you want to look up, or just, you can look up B1 English grammar, and you get a plethora of things online that you can just pull out, grab a couple of different activities, put together a nice lesson, and then with some speaking activities at the end, voila. And some other things like a subscription competition quiz. We'll talk about that where I use the quiz later slides. Okay, so let's go to the next. And as you can see, another thing that I forgot to say was that the slides you can see, my team on Hallo is Team New York because I was born in New York. And so that is our little branding. And I use my image just small so that you know who I am. But I really want to draw attention to the fact that what lesson we're going to be looking at. So that's why I do it that way. Let's go to the next slide. All right, lesson planning. So as I spoke a little bit about before in the previous slide, and it's important to prepare a specific topic in order to create a safe environment, which is rich with scaffolding vocabulary. I'm sure all of us teachers know what that means. What does that mean for all of you who are not teachers? It just means that you build the class in such a way where you introduce, the target vocabulary. Thank you, Sylvia. You introduce the target vocabulary with other games, maybe with taboo, maybe you do a Quizlet before the class that people can take advantage of and take part in before they go to the class to get themselves familiar with the words. And anyway, and then this scaffolding idea of building together what these words are and how to use them with guided practice and then free practice, and then your students should be able to use it within a really free practice setting, such as role plays, which is a personal favorite in my classes. So these are just some examples of places where you can go to find lessons. One of them is Cambridge English. They've got they've got loads and loads of online lesson ideas, as well as photocopyable or copyright free, I suppose. The parts have uploaded onto their website, and you can just use them, project them into your classroom. Another one, as I said before, grammar lessons. If you just type in anything into Google, Google is wonderful. Google has saved all of our lives during COVID, I believe. I think you might agree with me there. And of course, the British Council website. There are many others, many others that you can just sort of, Google. Like Kieran Donaghy is another great one. And then other people who are not so well known. Okay, so this is the next slide, which just shows some of the things, and I've added up one of my thumbnails that I use for class. When I want to teach grammar, I do things that are sort of like this particular grammar point was about past verb tenses. So what better way of showing that than something that's very ancient, like the inside of an Egyptian tomb. Or an Egyptian monument. On the left, what you can see are books that you can find on the Cambridge website, cambridgeenglish.org website, that are completely free. Like you can actually download entire units from these books, and they don't only have these Empower books. They've got many other books available for you to use in your classes. Now, what you see under the picture of grammar is an example of a grammar lesson that I actually found off of the internet, which was a type in, and then you would be able to correct it at the end. So it's really nice to find these types of websites where your students can have immediate gratification, meaning that they can get their answer. They can get their response corrected immediately. That's a really nice tool to use in your classes. And then this is an example up here where it says BBC English at the top right of business English lessons that you can find on the BBC. And that's just one lesson that I did use in one of my classes, which was talking about business language. Should we get down to business or should we have some small talk? And it made for great conversation in the class. And yeah, it's just wonderful that the internet exists today, that we can do all of these wonderful things with our students that are across the globe, right? My students are from all over the world, and it's wonderful. Okay, my next slide is about games. Games are an essential part of any English class, or any class, really. I mean, if we're going to be honest. Because it's a great way to get your blood pumping and get people like wanting to compete with each other. And as you can see on the top, I've included as well 2 thumbnails that I used for my games classes. So games are an integral part to support a student-centered speaking environment. Things such as taboo or role plays or debates, and I'll show you some examples of them in my next slide. There are other ways of creating an environment where the students can think in English. Other ways of creating an environment where students can think in English are using riddles. That's one of my personal favorites. Creating stories with pictures. There are wonderful, wonderful websites where you can do this, where there's actually like a picture generator, and it just gives you all these random pictures. And then the students have to create a story. Another great way of helping your students, lots of students say, it's so difficult to think in English. I don't know how to think in English. Well, a great way of doing it is to present the problems to them in English, which is another way, of saying a riddle or, stories or whatever, but problems. Like, so for example, math problems and word games, or even Black stories, because all of the information is given in English, and they've got to make yes or no questions, they've got to ask you yes or no questions to arrive at whatever it is that you're trying to explain. So I use a combination of these things, and you'll see them in the next slides. Just a couple of examples of things that I do. All right, so here we see a little bit small, unfortunately, because I couldn't get the whole screen, but I'm sure that we'll have some way of putting up these slides somewhere so anybody who's interested could see them. So some of the things that I do, and here you can see two other examples of thumbnails that I've made. One of my classes had to do with jobs and interviews, or business English, right? So we actually did a role play where we would have an interviewer and an interviewee. And the scaffolding of the conversation is already in the role play, if you can see that up there, where they ask things like, why are you interested in this job? And the student has to come up with some sort of idea. And then things that are already on the sheet itself, such as, well, what kind of experience do you have? And then it says on the right side for what the student has to say, what experience they have. So it's a way of building conversation. And the students really get into it. They really have a good time. They laugh a lot with these role plays, because sometimes they will get a little bit ridiculous. And I think that's good to allow in class, because it gets students interested in wanting to express themselves better, in making other people laugh. And you can do that when you've got a huge, when you've got a large classroom full of people from different parts of the world, and their common language is English. We lost the screen sharing. Let me just go back to the screen sharing. So sorry, just a moment. If we can see that now. Okay, great. Some of the other things that I have used is taboo scatter sheets. Now, you can see that underneath the picture that says Law and Order Taboo. So the way that we play taboo in online crowd learning, which is what I call Hallo, online crowd learning, because literally you can have hundreds of people in your classroom, and some people are your subscribers, so they interact with you in speaking through your class. You can speak with them. You can speak with up to 4 people at the same time. So how do you play taboo? Because usually you have like cards with these taboo words that you cannot say, and somebody's going to look at your card. Well, the way that I found out how to do this online is the following. Make a scatter sheet. So if you can see underneath the thumbnail for Law and Order Taboo, there's a scatter sheet there. What are the rules of this taboo? The rules of this taboo are, you cannot say any of those words that are on that sheet, but you've got to describe them in such a way so that somebody else can figure it out. And we've come up with, I mean, you can obviously adapt this type of activity for those who are lower learners, or rather that haven't got such a command of English. Perhaps you can be a little bit more relaxed on those rules and allow them to use the words on the sheet. But those who are better shouldn't need to use the words on the sheet. So that's just a way to adapt these activities. Another thing that we've got up here are debate topics. So there are a number of different debate topics that are on this sheet in particular. For example, let me just see this a little bit bigger. Celebrities earn too much money, and then have, half of your class say that they're for, half of them against, and they've got to come up with ideas for proving their point. So that's just a couple of ways to create conversation in the classroom, whether it be through the chat area or whether it be speaking, because they'll be speaking with you in the classroom itself when you can project people up there. Okay, so I had also mentioned quizzes before. Quizzes are a great way to test your students on the vocabulary that you've already looked at from previous classes. So I say here, online crowd learning can be tested through independent websites such as Quizalize.com or Quizlet.com. Quizlet is a little bit smaller, whereas Quizalize, you can make longer multiple choice quizzes, and you can use them literally to test what your students have learned in previous classes, or you can use them I've used them for both. And it's really nice because at the same time when you teach, you're teaching through your phone, you can project on the computer screen what everybody is doing on the quiz at the same time. And other people during the competition can write into your chat, oh my gosh, so it's such and so is in the lead or whatnot. And it's really fun. Quizlet's a great way to incorporate homework activities, or as I said before, pre-vocabulary activities, like pre-class activities to build scaffolding, to build vocabulary. And having the students also prepare presentations and having discussions on student-led topics as well help the students to connect their own experience and express it in the target language. This helps develop world culture and spoken production in something that is important to the students, because that's the best way that we can connect with the language, right? If it means something to us. So it's really, I find it to be important to, really listen and have the students express what is it in their culture that may be similar or different to whatever it is that we're learning in English class. And we had a wonderful class on that during Christmas about traditional holiday food, which I am showing you now the thumbnail for. If you can see the sort of small picture that says show and tell traditional foods right there in the center, that was like a 2-hour class where my students were just talking about traditional foods in their country, because not everybody celebrates Christmas, right? But how do you bring in the richness of the culture and help the students to express it in English? Well, let's talk about something else where, you're telling me about a celebration and how you celebrate it in your country. Right next to it, I've also got a little thumbnail about a competition about a place where I'm from. My father's from Trinidad and Tobago, and we had a little competition on this. So I had announced this about a week before and had the students do some research and try their luck on yes, 2-time winner was video, exactly. And as you can see on the top here, the top left, you can see what the website for Quizlet looks like. It's extremely easy to use. You just create a profile and it's totally free. And it's a great way to make your English classes be just that much more interactive, because you can stick them into your group chat and then it's a way for people to compete against each other. Again, they can see who they're competing against and who's in first place, who's in second place. And then you can see on the right, Quizalize. This is the website where you can make longer quizzes, although, you know, it depends on whatever it is that you want to do, whether you want to make it 10, 20 questions, but you have the choice of making a longer or a shorter quiz. And they're wonderful, wonderful resources to use. Okay, so now we'll talk about listening comprehension and speaking production. I'm almost out of time. I find that using video lessons helps to bring out authentic samples of English to the classrooms. And you can do that through websites like ed.ted.com/lessons or Film English or learnenglish.britishcouncil. There are plenty of others. You can find short clips on YouTube and base a whole lesson on that. These lessons are designed to have the students hear English in its natural context while additionally broadening the students' knowledge and culture. So you can do lessons based on commercials or based on short videos. Some of those websites already have lessons done for you. Before I run out of time, let me show you what I mean. So here I show you some of the lessons that I've done. This is the website TEDx or TED Lessons for many of these lessons, and you take the questions that they have and then you can expand on them yourself. There were some wonderful lessons on moral dilemmas, on just learning about biology, the mystery of fever, and about something that actually happened in World War I during Christmas, which was a very, very nice lesson that we had together. Let's go to the next slide. Reading with your students. Okay, so there are many websites where you can find ebooks and online articles that are easy to project on the Hallo platform, such as Gutenberg.org. They have wonderful books that actually look like a book, where you have text and you can make it as big and as little as you want. Size is sort of a problem when you want to project something on the screen when you're teaching to online classes. But Gutenberg has got a wonderful, the books are already programmed perfectly. YouTube is another good one. There are lots of read-along stories on YouTube. The New York Times, if you get that delivered to you, or if you go to the website, you can grab an article from there and talk about current events in your classes. And the United Nations as well. Not only do they have articles, but they also have audio. So you could do listening comprehension exercises with your students on current events. Reading, I believe, enhances vocabulary, sentence structure, pronunciation, as well as listening comprehension when done out loud, and reading comprehension when paired with comprehension questions. Okay, and we're almost getting to the end. Thank you so much for being with me up to this point. Here I'm showing you the Gutenberg books are right here at the very top. Don't know if you can see A Book of Myths by Jean Lang, or Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling. You can find many, many books on there. And underneath it are a list of comprehension questions that I actually created based on this book, on this story by Rudyard Kipling, How the Camel Got His Hump, that you can see at the top in the middle. Pygmalion was another story that we used. And then I just show a piece of the morning briefing that I get delivered into my email that one day I read with my students. So just a couple of examples of sources you can use to read with your students online. Okay, and then it's very important to maintain contact with your students through private group chat. It's a good way of promoting a team and class atmosphere, and things that you can do to help that are recognizing and celebrating birthdays or holidays, and honoring and acknowledging cultural festivals. It's also good to keep in constant contact in the target language through the following things, because they create laughter and relaxation and, you know, space for learning. So things, memes, riddles, and jokes, and I'll show you what I mean in the next slide. I know I'm going over time. There we are. So if you can read what that says. These are just some riddles that I took off the internet. I stay in the corner, but I travel around the world. What am I? Anybody know? Can anybody remember? Vidya, I'm sure you remember. Anyway, or people buy me to eat but never eat me. What am I? Or idioms such as blow a fuse and you can see this man very angry. Arr! So it kind of explains what it is. Or I'm all ears. I'm paying attention to you. These little things to send into the group chat just to teach about idioms, keep the students in continuous contact with English, help them to think in English by giving them problems. For example, I had $3. My mom gave me $10, while my dad gave me $30. My aunt and uncle gave me $100. I had another $5. How much should I have? Now you have to add with your students. And these words come up like, oh, well, how do you say add? Or how do you say subtract? And how does it look when you write it out in your own language? And so it creates these areas to explain to your students how, your language differs from theirs, and help them to also think in English. All right, so thank you very much for being with me for all this 30 minutes. And in closing, I will quote Stephen Krashen, because I think that if you don't know how to say it best, it's best just to quote a wonderful source, which I find is Stephen Krashen is my mentor. And I think what all we foreign language teachers strive to create in our classes. I will read. The best methods are therefore those that supply comprehensible input in low anxiety situations, containing messages that students really want to hear. These messages do not force early production in the second language, but allow students to produce when they are ready, recognizing that improvement comes from supplying communicative and comprehensive input, and not from forcing and correcting production. Thank you very much for being with me and for listening. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, Devin. Thank you.
Wonderful. Mariana, thank you so much for that incredible presentation. And thank you so much to everybody who joined throughout the presentation and provided comments and insight. We really, really had a wonderful time today. And while everybody is here, if anybody has any questions for Mariana, or any final thoughts or anything, we would love to hear them. Looks like we have some thank yous. Thank you all so much. And wonderful, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you all so much for joining. We will stick around here for a few more minutes just in case there are any questions. But if there are not any questions, I just want to remind you all that coming up at 11 o'clock is a networking hour. So just an hour where you will be able to meet with lots of different people and network and get to know each other. It'll be a really great time. But does anybody have any questions? Mariana, it looks like you did a fantastic job and everybody is just saying thank you so much.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm just looking at the comments right now. Oh, thank you, Vidya.
It looks like we do have two comments right now. We have one from John Lavin, who says, how do you use humor, Mariana? So perhaps in your teaching, how do you use humor to help teach? You had a great slide on some idioms and jokes and riddles and things like that.
Well, I think the best way to detail that is whenever, at the beginning, when I started to do role plays with the students, and Vidya might remember this, there was one class in particular where nobody knew how to start. And I think it was about a grandmother, an old grandmother who is filthy rich. I was playing the old grandmother, and her grandson, who never calls her, needs to ask her for $20,000 to start a pizza business. So I just I acted in the most ridiculous way I could think of possible. I said, "What are you doing here? You never come visit me, and now you're going to ask me for money, aren't you?" And all of them. So things like that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Or silly jokes, or I don't know. Sometimes the class has sort of like is its own beast, and jokes sort of just arise by themselves, which is one of the loveliest things about about Hallo and bringing everybody together while we're all separated during COVID.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
There's
I hope
another-
that answers your question, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Black stories. What are black stories? Black stories are riddles, which are a little bit longer. You can only ask yes or no questions for. They're usually a little bit like dark humor. I wouldn't say dark humor. They're just dark. They're a little bit dark. For example, should I give an example?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody knows about Jack and Jill, right? Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, right? Well, there's a black story that says Jack and Jill are laying down in a pool of water with broken glass and water all around them. They're dead. All of the windows and all of the doors are closed and locked in the house. Nobody came into the house. Nobody left the house. The only thing that's close by are some train tracks near the house. How did they die? And then the students ask yes, no questions to find out after. I'm not. If you want to use that one and you want to know what the answer is, go ahead and message me later. I don't want to give any spoilers because that's a really good black story.
Wonderful. That's a fantastic example. And Nathan, I hope that answers your question about black stories. That was a fantastic question. And those are such a great way for students to engage in critical thinking when it comes to stories. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
We have another question.
Yes, what was the next question?
My second question was a parallel that could be drawn between Lazanov and Krashen, speaking specifically to the construct of desuggestopedia. I think I've heard of that before. I'm not sure what that. Do you know what that means? Do you know what desuggestopedia is, Devin?
I can't say I've ever heard about that, Nathan, but that's an excellent question. I would love to do a little bit of research about that. And feel free to message me anytime, or Mariana, like she mentioned earlier about the answer to the black story. And I'm sure that we could come to something with that.
It says
that's fantastic.
It's the method. The method puts importance on desuggesting limitations on learning. So meaning just allow students to express themselves as they wish.
Oh, great.
I suppose keeping it inside of, I'm not really sure where you're getting what.
Well, yeah, Nathan says it breaks the anxiety in an academic context. So that sounds like exactly what you were saying, Mariana. That's great.
Yeah. Lowering anxiety so that people can actually, their effective filter is not up, so that they can actually receive messages. Yeah.
Great. That's wonderful.
It does work. And games are great. So
absolutely. Those icebreakers, right?
Mm-hmm. Icebreakers, and they're like great to start the class and great to close the class.
Totally agree. Absolutely agree. That's so great. It looks like Andrew St. Fleur asks if we will be able to receive these slides. And I'm not sure about that, but Mariana would probably be able to provide you an answer.
Definitely. I would just, if I can somehow upload them into an event, can I do that?
I will check with our technical support team because I haven't heard that either, but I'm sure that would be a wonderful way to distribute them. For now, maybe if students ask from now until I find out via private message, if you would be able to send them a link, I'm sure they would really love that. And I'll send you an email as soon as I find out, if that's all right, Mariana.
Sorry, Devin, when you say through a private message, do you mean here in an event?
I believe that there's an inbox function. And if you click on the inbox function, and this is for everybody who's watching right now, up next to your profile, there's a little inbox button, and then you can click on find people to chat. And you should be able to message anybody who is here. in attending the Language Summit. So we would love to answer any of your questions that way as well to everybody who's here.
Great. So you guys can message me in the inbox. You can find me, Mariana Makoon-Singh. If you would like these slides, no problem. I'm happy to share whatever information. I'm really excited to see what everybody else has to say today, because I want to pick your brains and know what else you guys do in your classes to make them better.
I'm also extremely interested, and I feel like I learned so much from your presentation today. Thank you so much for your valuable insight and everything from thumbnails to teaching patterns. It was really incredible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
So, how should we do this now? Should I just stop stream, or sorry to ask?
Yes, so you can just click that button again for streaming and we will end off. So everybody who's here right now, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your questions and for your participation. And once again, a big thanks to Mariana for the incredible presentation. So we will see you all again very soon in a different room. All right?
Thank you, Devin, for emceeing. Bye-bye.